In this video, I want to answer the question, what is the Kraljic Matrix and how can we apply it to project management? If you're managing projects of any significant size, then procurement probably accounts for a big chunk of your budget. Yet, too many project managers treat procurement as an afterthought. It's something they'd rather leave to the procurement professionals, failing to note that it's a strategic activity for large projects where procurement is a significant part of the budget. Poor procurement decisions represent a significant risk to your projects. And that's why the Kraljic Matrix is such an important tool in your project management toolkit. So, what is it and how can we apply it to project management? The Kraljic Matrix was developed in 1983 by procurement professional Peter Kraljic, and he published it first in the Harvard Business Review. I'll put a link in the description. We use the matrix in procurement and in supply chain management to categorize suppliers and purchasers according to the impact of the purchasing decision and the risk to the supply. The beauty of the framework, like many other 2x2 models, is its simplicity. The Kraljic Matrix offers us a structured way to segment the supplier base. This allows us to develop differentiated purchasing strategies based on the two factors of the impact of what it is we're buying and the supply risk. Think of it as a 2x2 grid. On one axis, we plot the financial or strategic impact of the purchase on our project or initiative. This can be measured in terms of the project's success or its profitability or any other measure that you care to use. On the other axis, we have the supply complexity or risk. This is a measure of how secure we feel in acquiring the products or services we need. The greater the risk or complexity, the lower our certainty is. So why does this really matter to project managers? Most projects involve some amount of procurement activity, whether we're supplying finished goods, software, contractors or consultants, or raw materials. The purchasing decisions that we make in securing each of these can have a direct effect not just on our project's cost, but on its timelines and its quality outcomes. As a result, purchasing decisions directly impact the benefits we can achieve from our projects and the value that they deliver. I've seen too many projects derailed because project managers treat every purchasing decision in the same way, no matter how complex it is, no matter how important the item is that we're purchasing. This is often a result of blindly following purchasing rules, and it can result in spending weeks negotiating over a small, low-value, low-importance, easy-to-procure item, while spending little time on complex, important items. Where we need critical supplies of highly specialized items that are hard to achieve, that's where we need to put our attention. The Kraljic Matrix makes all of this evident by forcing us to explicitly consider the risk we have in procurement and the importance of the thing we're procuring to our project. Let's look at the 4 distinct quadrants that we have and the particular approach that each one demands. First are non-critical items with a low impact and a low risk or complexity. These are items that have a low impact on the success of your project and can be found in abundance from many suppliers in many different markets. For project managers, these tend to be consumable commodity items like office supplies or simple technology. For these items, our goal must be to maximize the efficiency of the procurement process. This way, we can reduce the administrative burden and therefore the administrative cost overhead in procuring them. The strategy is therefore to streamline the process. Use catalogues, e-procurement, or e-tendering if competitive processes are required. In this quadrant, you may want to delegate your purchasing and procurement decisions to line managers. Don't waste senior management time on these items. Our next quadrant is leverage items, or leverage items if, like me, you're British. These are items with high impact, but low risk. These are typically high volume and low complexity items. Once again, we need to focus on cost saving and procurement efficiency. Use competitive bidding and volume pricing. In the project context, these tend to be standard materials that are available from multiple suppliers, or services where there is fierce competition for what is fundamentally a commodity service. The strategy here is to negotiate hard. Exploit your purchasing power to drive costs down. Use competitive tendering and standard forms of contract. Don't try to over-engineer the relationships for these types of services. Our third quadrant is the bottleneck items. These are items with low impact but a high supply risk. These items may not be critical to core measures of project success, but they can be unpredictable in the procurement process. This is where suppliers face challenges to either materials supply themselves or in the manufacturing process. So, these kinds of procurements require careful monitoring and contingency planning. They may not be critical, but at some point they may become time sensitive. The strategy here is to do everything you can to secure supply. Here, we're focusing on supply security over cost optimization. We're looking to identify alternative suppliers and even product alternatives. Perhaps procuring from multiple suppliers so that if one lets us down, we won't lose all access. This may be more expensive, but it reduces our risk. Another way to reduce risk, which does have a cost, is to create a buffer with securing stock and holding it yourself. In terms of services, this might mean a call-down contract with a pre-commitment that guarantees access to the services you need, which again will come with a cost premium. Our final quadrant is strategic items with a high impact on our project and a high supply complexity or risk. These goods and services are critical for our project and yet hard to source reliably. For project managers, these are the things that can make or break your project and therefore demand your attention. Do not just leave it to procurement professionals, but equally don't try to do it all yourself. Engage procurement professionals to support you, to give you good advice and to work through the options. This category includes things like specialist equipment, critical expertise, and unique, hard-to-source materials. You're likely to want to focus on collaboration and joint ventures and risk management. The strategy here is strategic partnerships. Build long-term collaborative relationships with trusted suppliers. These will, of course, require your personal attention. You need to build up an understanding of the supplier's capabilities and their limitations to help you to build contingency plans and estimate the risk appropriately. Consider these suppliers as critical stakeholders and include them properly in your communications plan and your risk register. So what practical tips can I offer you in implementing your use of the Kraljic Matrix? First, start your matrix analysis early in the planning stage, long before you're ready to start work on procurement. Use it to inform your procurement strategy, your budgeting, and your timelines. Next, don't treat the matrix as a static representation of reality. Situations change. Supply availability can move in and out as the market demand shifts and as raw materials become more or less available. A supplier might start as a leverage supplier but move to a strategic supplier as alternatives disappear. Third, consider the supplier's perspective too. If you are a small customer, to a large supplier in your strategic quadrant, the supply risk may be even higher than the matrix suggests. Equally, if someone on your team is in any way disrespectful to a critical supplier, that can undermine the relationship and increase supply risk as well. The key here is recognizing that good project management is not just about managing your internal team, but about understanding that your supplier base is part of your critical team, and to involve particularly the strategic suppliers in your team thinking. Ultimately, procurement is a strategic activity and not just something to think about as project management efficiency. So, the Kraljic Matrix helps project managers to think strategically about an important dimension of our project, procurement management. Segmentation allows us to get a good overview of the project's procurement risk profile, and therefore to help the project manager to make good decisions about where to invest their time and effort in the procurement process. For each quadrant, you need to develop your own supplier strategies and tactics. Strategic suppliers need to become partners in your project's success. Leverage suppliers are sources of advantage through cost optimization. Bottleneck suppliers require active risk mitigation, and non-critical suppliers need efficient processing. So, next time you start planning a project, don't treat procurement as someone else's problem. Instead, use the Kraljic Matrix to understand the landscape of the purchasing decisions you're going to need to make. Successful projects aren't just about planning and execution. They're also about executing a smart procurement strategy. Please do give this video a like if you've enjoyed it or learned from it. I'll be making loads more great project management videos for you, so please do subscribe to the channel and hit the bell so you don't miss any of them. And I'll look forward to seeing you in the next one.